All right. Well, hello there. For those who are catching the recording, we've already been talking, we've already been chatting, we've already been having a good time. And so now we're just going to go into the workshop itself. The workshop today is Happy Hormones and Metabolism free workshop. And a lot of the times when we talk about burning calories and how do I lose weight and how do I burn body fat, the most common response you'll ever see across all of the internet is always going to be eat less, move more. And while yes, for a lot of the time that can be the quote unquote technical solution for the vast majority of people, especially since COVID, when things have been going up and down, like people are gaining weight and losing weight at like more, like they're gaining weight more than ever, and then they're losing weight more than ever, but then they're regaining the weight more than ever. And so the old adage of eat less, move more just isn't viable for the average person anymore that has tried everything, who has tried to lose weight, maybe he struggles to lose weight, can't lose weight, or has successfully lose weight, hit a plateau, and then regained the weight back, even though they're doing everything quote unquote technically right. Right, when they think they're doing everything right and they're not losing weight, there's always two responses. One of them is either A, you're not actually doing everything right, and like otherwise you would be losing weight. That would be the definition of it. But the other side of that is, okay, well, hold on, maybe you have tried everything and maybe you actually are being accurate with the tracking, you are being accurate with the steps, you are being accurate with everything that you're supposed to be tracking, you're getting good sleep, you're eating mostly proteins, fruits, vegetables, stuff like that, and we're still stuck. So like, what's the problem? And that's kind of the problem. And a lot of people are stuck in that situation where they feel like they've been doing everything right, but they just can't figure out why they're not losing weight. They had this plateau, right? And so that's what this workshop is going to address and talk about. So moving on. So the idea is with this, if this will please just work. Hey, okay, it moved. I like it. I tested earlier, it did work. I tested again, it didn't work. I tested again and it started working, and now it's working still. I like it when it works. Okay, so like, does this sound familiar? Right? You decide to hop on a diet, you lose weight, you get a plan together, and for the first 2 to 3 weeks, you're losing weight. Everything is hunky dory. You're like super excited. Things are going well, and around the weeks 3 and 4, the scale kind of starts to slow down. You're like, as far as you know, nothing's changed, so you don't know why it's slowing down. You just pray to God this is just like a phase, crossing your fingers, hoping that like they'll just keep losing weight and things keep going. And then week 5 to 6, you hit a stall. And then even though you change nothing, even though your diet hasn't changed at all, theoretically, you should keep losing weight. You don't know what's going on. You bang your head against the wall going, I don't get it. Like, what's going on? You start to build this almost sort of internal resentment to the plan that you're on because like you did everything right. And yet now suddenly hit a wall and you don't know why, despite the fact that nothing's changed. Then it all falls apart. You step on the scale, and one day it bumps up a couple pounds, and that sends you into full blown panic mode. You say "fuck it," you smack that button. You go to the pantry, go to the freezer, go in this downward spiral of eating your emotions because you're so overwhelmed with like you're frustrated, right? You're not getting the results that you thought you were going to get, and so now like you go on this downward spiral, and you basically eat your emotions. Then you eventually convince yourself, you know what? Like, I've been good for so long. I'm just going to get it out of the way now. I'm going to eat this now, get it out of the way now, get it over with, and then that way I can just start over clean on Monday and get this ball rolling again. And then Monday never comes. You end up gaining more weight than you even started with, and then you try again, but this time it's harder. It's harder to lose weight, even if you jump on the same plan. You're not losing weight as fast as you were the first time, and so now you're kind of getting frustrated right from the get go because it's not as effective as it was the first time, right? That's always frustrating. Or again, you decide to lose weight. Maybe you get a good plan. Again, the first 2 to 3 weeks tend to be good, but you get really burnout really quickly because now that you had the success before and it's not as successful this time, you're getting this burnout due to lack of results. Maybe you're just chronically, just severely under eating that you're not able to, you don't have the energy to keep going. We don't have the mental bandwidth day to day or the mental energy to stick to the good decisions that we know we should be making, but we can't because it's frustrating and we're not getting the results. And again, it's one of those things where if I'm not getting the results, why bother doing the thing? Right? If I'm not getting the return on the investment, why bother keep going? Right? And it's clearly not working, so why bother? And so we quit and then go on to the next diet. And then again, the first 2 to 3 weeks are going good, and then you stop losing weight, and you think to yourself that you are somehow broken, that you are somehow the problem, and you call yourself a failure. And then we quit because if you're failing, nobody wants to feel like they're bad at something, so they're not going to keep attempting the thing because they think they're bad at it, and so they call themselves a failure. And so you quit, right? All of these things, there are so many reasons why we can keep going on and off the cycle of gain weight, lose weight, dieting. The average woman will try 121 attempts of dieting in their lifetime. That is ridiculous. And one of the things that we hear all the time is, oh, they just need to want it more. You just need to try harder. You just need to, like, you clearly just don't want it bad enough. Find your why. And the problem with this way of thinking is, like, have you ever met somebody who's tried something 121 times and then thought to yourself they clearly don't want the thing? Like, it's pretty ridiculous. That's a pretty ridiculous way to think about it. You want it. Clearly. Like, there's no going around it. You clearly want the thing if you're willing to buckle down and try 121 times in your lifetime. And remember, that's average, meaning there are a lot of people that also do less than that, but there also means there's a ton of people that do more than that. So, like, try to wrap your head around that. Like, clearly people are trying 200 attempts at some point, and, like, they clearly want the thing. Wanting it bad enough isn't the problem. The problem is kind of just the way we kind of go about it. Human nature is kind of an asshole, and our brain is not our friend on this journey. Your brain is designed solely to keep you alive, not make you happy. So we have to work around that. We have to make sure we're kind of working around that to make sure we're actually doing things the right way and staying the course, because obviously that's always the hard part. People lose weight all the time, they get frustrated and they quit, right? But a lot of the times if they just keep going, they're going to get the results, or what we're going to talk about today. And the idea that we need to talk about is that you're not alone. This is, like I said, the average woman will try 121 attempts in their lifetime. This is a very common thing. A lot of us like to think that our struggles are special, that our struggles are our own, that we are the only people on this earth that could possibly be feeling the same struggles I am. And that is just simply not true. The good news is no, your metabolism is not broken. It actually did exactly what you asked it to do, because your body is always under either stress or adaptation, and the metabolism adjusts accordingly. Things like chronic dieting, yo-yo dieting, calorie deficits, lack of quality nutrients, excess cardio, all of these are massive stressors on the body. Yet these are also very common things that you see all the time. And all of these are powerful signals to the body to slow down the metabolism over time. And because you never had an exit strategy or a proper tools to rebuild the metabolism or that internal foundation to support the ideal body, the dream body that you want to live in, not just physically, but also how you feel day to day, energy wise, pain wise, right? Not just from a fat loss perspective, not just from like getting lean and toned, but like the lifestyle that you want to live, being able to go on hikes, being able to go on adventures, all these things, being able to play with your kids, all these things like occur, right? And we never actually took the time to set the foundation of our metabolic health to support that lifestyle that we want. And so, of course, because we never actually set that off ramp, we never actually set that goal, we never actually set that plan to rebuild the metabolism, rebuild that internal health. Of course, we struggle to lose weight and keep it off, right? Because every time you diet, you go through extreme restriction for long periods of time. You slow down the metabolism gradually over time with each repeated attempt, sometimes after years at weight loss, but we never took the time to gradually build it back up. So what ends up happening is your metabolism went from like, say, up here and then came down to about here. And so your calories ended up adjusting, your body adjusted, adapted, right? Your calories came down, your metabolism adjusted to meet that calories out. Because hey, if you have a metabolism, like, I'm just gonna throw out numbers, if you have a metabolism that's used to 3,000 calories in, 3,000 calories out, it's nice and stable. Then you suddenly are like, I want to lose weight. You drop calories down to 1,200, which is a very common number, a very common attempt that we see. That now suddenly your metabolism goes into emergency mode and goes, holy shit, if I keep burning 3,000 calories and you're only eating 1,200, you're going to shrivel up and die. Your organs are going to fail. Your skin's going to dry out. Your eyes get dry. Like, you get cold all the time, not irritable. Like, all of these things that happen within the body. Every single function in the body needs energy. And so you just went you just immediately cut that by over half, and now it's desperately wanting some more energy. Or so that's where you get hungry and cravings and stuff like that. Or it has to slow down to match, otherwise you will shrivel up and die because it's burning through more and a lot more energy than you're providing it. And so as we kind of move, so what ends up happening is now you struggle to lose fat at all, and what used to work doesn't work anymore. Because what ended up happening is your calories went down, your metabolism had to slow down to match it. And then you stopped getting results. And then you said, fuck it, and went right back to what you were doing before. But now that your metabolism has slowed down so much, you're now at a massive surplus of calories. You're going to gain weight so much faster than you did the first time, until the metabolism, which can take weeks, sometimes months to catch back up. So you've gained so much, you gain a lot of weight because your metabolism slowed way down, and now your body has to play catch up. You're supplying, even if you went back to the same calories you were before, your metabolism has slowed down, and so now the weight just piles right back on, and then you get frustrated, and you're like, okay, well now I got to jump on another diet so I can lose weight again, but you still haven't brought the metabolism back up, and so now you have to bring calories even lower to start seeing results. And that's why it struggles. That's why it gets harder and harder each and every time. So how do we rebuild the metabolism and heal our body to actually make this work? Before we jump into that, we need to get an understanding what the metabolism actually is. We need to understand what it is, because a lot of the times when I talk to people, a lot of the common answers is, oh, it metabolizes the food that we eat, and yeah, I was like, okay, that is technically right, but it doesn't give us the full picture. The metabolism is the sum total of all chemical reactions that happen within the body. We often hear about CECO, or calories in versus calories out. Calories in is obvious. That's the food that we eat. But what about the calories out? We don't really talk about that part of the equation. And that's kind of what we need to talk about. That's the conversation we need to have, because a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I need to eat 6 small meals a day to keep the metabolism running hot. But 2,000 calories of 6 meals or 2,000 calories of 4 meals is still the same number of calories, therefore the same number of chemical reactions. Therefore, no. The nice thing is we don't need to do 6 meals a day, because no matter what, it equates to the same amount of chemical reactions that are going on. But what goes into those chemical reactions that we're talking about, right? So calories in, like calories out, we talk about calories out part of this equation. There are 4 different categories that go into the calories out. We have our EAT, or exercise activity thermogenesis, our TEF, or thermic effect of food, our NEAT, or our non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or our BMR, which is our basal metabolic rate. Metabolic being the key word there. A lot of people think that the EAT, the exercise activity thermogenesis, is the big thing they need to work on. A lot of people go like, I just need to work out more. I need to do more hours of cardio. I need to push harder in the gym, XYZ. But as you can see here, it only actually accounts for 5% of the total calories out we ever have in any single day. That's not much. The hardest, most grueling workout you ever devise will still only cap out about 5% of your total calories burned in any given day. This is why simply more is not better. Better is better. Quality.
So I don't want to interrupt, but can you explain why that is?
Your body kind of essentially goes, hey, we're working really hard, but we need to start conserving, because this is a problem, because your body's lazy. So as you reach a certain ceiling, your body basically reduces the overall amount of calories you're going to start burning during exercise. Plus, if we think about it, hold on, new person, ding. Okay, they're coming in. So the whole idea with this is, if we also take a look, 1 hour workout is only 4% of your day. 1 hour of exercise is only 4% of your day, right? If we take 24 divided by 2, there's 50%. That's 12 hours. Divide that by 2, there's 6. You're at 25%, right? And then you keep breaking it down. 1 hour is only 4% of your day. So if we break it down to the whole idea of a workout, that actually almost perfectly aligns up with this chart. The intentional exercise at the gym is only ever going to cap out about 5% of your total calories burned in a day, because simply time as well. So if we're spending an hour in the gym, that kind of caps out, not, and it kind of lines up, because that lines up with a 4%, 5%. You're very, very close to each other. Does that make sense?
Well, this is where it confuses me, is that, say, again, this is just hypothetical. So you're on the treadmill and you go for however long and you burn 1,000 the machine tells you you've burned 1,000 calories.
Yeah.
So how, if it's saying that you've burned that much, how is it still only a small percentage of your daily? Like, how does that
So,
how does that translate? That's where I'm not understanding.
yeah. So calories burned in machines are almost always going to be way over. They're almost always going to be severely inaccurate. That being said, they're usually consistently inaccurate, which means that you can still use it and be like, okay, if it says 1,000 calories today and 1,050 tomorrow, that means I worked harder tomorrow. It's still inaccurate, but it's still a good way to track overall effort that you're putting in. However, what ends up happening is, when you're kind of adding that, like, let's just use that example, the cardio comes up. What ends up happening is your body, when you're under calories, when you're not bringing in enough food, your body finds other ways to conserve energy. So what you'll notice, I mean, you might not notice it because it's kind of monotonous and you don't really think about it, but like, you'll find out you fidget less. You'll tap your finger less. You'll tap your feet less. You'll naturally, your brain will go, let's park a little bit closer today. Your brain will naturally sink into, let's sit on the couch for an extra 5 minutes. We don't need to get up. You're more likely to convince yourself not to get up and do the thing. And so by overexerting yourself in the gym, you're later in that day, your body like subconsciously wants to conserve energy, because it's a survival machine, not a happiness machine. And so it wants to conserve energy as best as possible. So if you overexert at the gym, what ends up happening is later on in the day, your body subconsciously will pick decisions that make it conserve energy overall. Does that make sense? Cool.
Sorry, I didn't notice I was muted. I did say yes.
Got it. Yeah, then we have the thermic effect of food, which is basically the amount of calories your body burns just by digesting the food. Right? That comes to about 10% of your total calories burned in a day. NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is again going to the tapping, the shifting your body weight, the going for longer walks, walking, stuff like that, brushing your teeth. All that counts as non-exercise specific kind of activity thermogenesis. The ability to, like, burning calories just by doing daily activities that's not intentional exercise. And so
why is walking in there when walking is kind of an exercise?
It can be, and technically, scientifically, that goes into exercise activity thermogenesis. But the impact it has is different, because it's not a stressor on the body. It acts more like a non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Got it. See, so that explains it a little more to me there.
Yeah. Yeah, because walking is so low impact, so low stress, it acts, even though it is technically intentional exercise, therefore belongs in the exercise activity thermogenesis part, it's so low impact that your body treats it as non-exercise. And that's kind of how that works. Then your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. This is everything else. I believe I put this here. Come on. There we go. So the biggest impact on your BMR, and look, you can see your BMR is 70% of your calories out. That's a big chunk. So when we look at that chart, which one do you think we should probably focus on if we want to get the best results? Probably the BMR, right? And so what has the highest impact on BMR? The biggest return on investment? That's muscle mass, having proper hormone profile, gut health, good quality sleep, overall metabolic health, things like diet history and metabolic adaptation. Like, again, if you have a history of yo-yo dieting, your BMR is going to be a lot lower. If you have hypothyroidism, that 70% can drop down to about 60 to 50%, depending on how extreme it is. If you're in menopause, right? And if you're in menopause, you have estrogen and progesterone, two more hormones gone, and you have the hypothyroidism, right? So now you have three big things that are impacting your BMR that comes down. So there's a lot of, so we need to address these things. We need to make sure that these kind of sections, maximizing the muscle mass, the hormones, gut health, sleep, and overall metabolic health, to help make sure our BMR is as optimal as possible, because that's going to be the biggest bang for your buck for any sort of fat loss attempt in the future. But we need to rebuild that. We need to build that from the inside out. That being said, your EAT, your TEF, and your NEAT all play a role in the things that go on in your body, right? We know that nutrition plays the biggest role in hormones. We know that has the biggest impact on hormones. We know how impactful walking is for overall health, and we know we know how important exercise is. So those other three categories can help optimize the BMR, but optimizing the BMR can't happen without those other things. So we'll talk about that as we kind of go through this workshop. So signs of poor metabolic health. Got to talk about, like, how do we know we have poor metabolic health, right? So number one, constant fatigue, like chronic fatigue, low energy, things like constant soreness. You're battling injuries all the time. You're irritable constantly. You have frequent mood swings. I realized I swapped that out there and didn't mean to. Always seem to be getting sick. Like, if you're always getting sick and you always find that that's the thing getting in your way, it's because we have poor metabolic health, because like our immune system doesn't have the proper fundamental building blocks from proper nutrition, from a healthy inside body. So we always seem to be getting sick because we're not providing the nutrition of the proper nutrition to build that sort of defense within the gut. We're talking about mid-afternoon energy slumps, battling constant cravings. Like if you're somebody who always has nighttime cravings or just cravings in general, that's a really big sign that because you're under eating, or because we're chronically low calorie, we're not providing the nutrition, and therefore your body's always saying, give me more, give me more, give me more. Constant anxiety or depression, that's a huge one. We know that nutrition and exercise play a huge role in not only mental health, but just brain health overall as a whole. And so we know that, and so we can tell. And if we have constant depression and anxiety, there's a really good chance that our body just doesn't feel safe. And it doesn't feel safe because our internal foundation is broken in some way, and that comes from the metabolic health, the yo-yo dieting, and all that sort of stuff that we've been talking about. Constant anxiety around food. This is kind of a relationship with food thing. If we go out to eat and we are stressing about the food that we're going to order because you don't want to be judged by the people around you, or you have these cravings, right? And it's like, oh, but like, man, that chocolate is right in view. I want to grab it, but I know I shouldn't, and I can't have it. I can't have it. I can't have it. And all this stress keeps building and building and building. That's going to create that's going to cause some metabolic damage as well, because we know the role that stress plays in the body. We know how bad stress can be. So if we're constantly having this anxiety around food, we're constantly elevating our cortisol levels, we're constantly kind of wreaking that havoc on our internal foundation. Lack of any real appetite. So this is the opposite of the craving one. Sometimes when your body is just so low on food and your body just does not, somebody else is here. Perfect. And so a lot of the times you can just lack an appetite, because when we end up kind of going through these big dieting phases, a lot of the times that it's you're telling the body that we're not eating food. But again, some people respond to stress in two ways. Some people respond to stress with cravings, and other people respond to stress with no appetite. I'm the kind of person that loses their appetite. And so what ends up happening is you're so stressed that your body is not producing stomach acid. Your body can't produce the hunger hormones, because your body's still in this fight or flight response of, I got to survive, right? And sometimes when you're under severe stress, your body still doesn't understand the difference between modern day stresses and old stresses. Your body still responds to stress the same way it did 10,000 years ago. So the way that stress works is like, hey, if you walk out to go get food, if you go for a hunt and you don't act like, and don't pretend, and don't think through of the scenario that there might be a tiger in that bush, and there happens to be a tiger in that bush, you're going to get eaten. And your body is constantly under this alert, this stress response mode, thinking everything is a danger, everything around me is some sort of stress. And therefore, again, that chronic cortisol levels kind of spike up, and we have this kind of big problem where you can lack the appetite due to all the stress, right? And so the body is still just responding as if it's being chased by a tiger. You need to convince it that it's safe. poor relationship with food. We talked about this: binge eating, stress eating, emotional eating, yo-yo dieting. When you panic when the scale goes up, or you have this all or nothing mentality. Again, I talked about it at the beginning of the call, where it was like some people feel like they have to do everything perfect or not at all, right? That's a huge thing. That, again, all that stress around these things, can't seem to get the results no matter what. Like, no matter what, again, kind of like we were talking about before, when you're doing everything right and you're not getting the results. That's what this is. And that is a really big red flag that we have poor metabolic health. Number 12, can't seem to get the results that last no matter what. So if you some people can not get results at all, but some people get results, but no matter what they do, they can't hold on to them. Right. Again, we talked about that. We can get results, you lose weight all the time, but maintaining that weight loss, that seems to be a biggest struggle. And then what worked before doesn't work now. A lack of motivation. A lot of people just kind of like, they've done it so many times and they've quote unquote failed so many times that they've just lost hope. So they're like, yeah, I'll try a diet again, but I mean, I don't think it's going to work for me. Like, the last time I tried didn't work. I don't see why this one's going to work. Right. So they go into the process already unmotivated. And then always cold, hair loss, dried skin. So, right, I talked about that. When, like, your body, when you start chronically depriving calories, your body will start to shut down the non-essential organs, right? And so things like, always, like temperature regulation, technically not necessary for survival. And so, because you can always put more clothes on, you can always move around to warm up. So it's going to start shutting down temperature regulation. Hair loss, right? Hair, skin, and nails all require protein, right? So if you're under eating, chances are there's a good chance you're not eating enough protein. So your hair starts to thin and starts to fall out. Your skin starts to dry out, because where, like, skin is kind of non-essential in the fact that, like, yes, all it needs to do is hold your meat together. That's all it needs to do. It doesn't need to be smooth. It doesn't need to be like clean and perfect. It doesn't need to be all that. It just needs to hold your meat together. So like your body will start depriving your skin of nutrients because you're not providing enough energy. And the maintenance calories, this is a huge one. A lot of the times when I take on new clients, when we start talking about calories, like, okay, well, what I need to do is I need to find your baseline maintenance so that we can actually stick there and understand how your body truly responds to energy. And a lot of the times, like, sometimes I've had like, when I've taken a client, I'd be like, cool, like, it looks like your maintenance is probably around that like 1800 mark. We need to find that. And they immediately freak out. They're like, there's no way I could eat that much food. I'm like, keep in mind that 1200 calories, which is so common to see adults attempting, 1200 calories is the recommendation of a toddler. Like, that's the recommended calorie intake of a toddler. We're grown ass adults, right? So when we're talking about that, it's like, man, like, of course the body's getting deprived. Of course we're getting the hair, skin, and nails, the loss of libido, and all that sort of thing, which, by the way, is number 17. Low or no libido. Like, we're sexual creatures. We should have some sort of sex drive. Then a lot of that comes from hormones that get built through the nutrition you take in, right? But a lot of the times, going back to the maintenance thing, a lot of the times when I talk about, like, cool, like, we're going with 1750 to 800 1800 calories to start with, and they freak out saying there's no way I could eat that much, I'll gain weight like crazy. That's a big sign that metabolic health is way just down the crapper at that point, because that's not a lot of food. It sounds like it because we've been conditioned to believe that less than that is what we need to do. But that's not actually normal. That's not actually a healthy metabolism. We need to at least start building our way back up to there. So if that sounds like you, if these are all kind of symptoms that you've felt before, this workshop is what you need. This is kind of what we're talking about. So what I'm about to talk to you about can sound very, very scary, and it's really normal to get nervous when we talk about this, because the idea that I'm going to talk about basically right away after this is essentially the idea of actually eating more to feel better. Right? We've tried the deprivation diets, we've tried the restriction, we've tried the less this, the less that, the no carbs, the eating 1200 calories, killing ourselves in the gym 10 hours a day or 10 hours a week with like excess cardio to try and burn as much fat as possible, only for none of it to ever work. So when we talk about how the body gets in this stress state where it doesn't feel safe enough to let go of what it has. Remember, body fat is just stored energy. That's all it is. Everything in your body requires energy to function. And then once you meet those energy needs, your body then goes, oh, hey, cool. I got what I need. Oh, like, look, I got some extra. Neat. I'm going to go store that as body fat. So that next time you try to lose weight, I've got some energy stores to pull from. Right. And so that's kind of the foundation of this is we need to slowly kind of play around with that. And so what I'm about to talk about, it does sound scary to some people, and it's totally normal to feel that way. But as we kind of buy into the process, you'll feel that this is kind of you'll see just how powerful this is, because I'm going to show you here's some clients that have had some great results like this, right? So I've had clients just by losing weight by eating more food. And that's a big, huge thing that a lot of people just kind of can't wrap their head around because of what we've been conditioned to, where it's like, oh, if you eat too much, you gain body fat. And I just explained how more energy leads to that. But it's kind of in the same manner, the same regard as when you lose, your metabolism slows down. We know the metabolism is the sum total of all chemical reactions that happen within the body. So if we reduce the chemical reactions, then it makes sense that our metabolism will slow down. So now we need to think about it in the opposite direction, right? And the girl on the right, who's doing everything right, still couldn't lose a pound. And then we bumped her calories up slowly up to 2,600 a day, and she ended up losing 40 pounds. Went from 1,200 calories a day, 6 days a week of cardio, to 2,200 calories and 3 days of strength training. Like, we reduced her exercise, made the exercise that she did more strength training, and she was able to start losing weight. And same with the man on the right, lost 36 pounds of fat, gained 11 pounds of muscle because he ate more. Going through again, went from a starvation, restrictive diet, low energy, poor mood, chronic fatigue, and no libido whatsoever, and doing 10 hours in the gym a week, to nourishing her body, going to a nourishing diet full of abundance, wakes up like the energy bunny. That was her quote that she used, that she feels like the energy bunny when she wakes up out of bed. She feels strong and confident in her own skin. And we're only spending 4 hours a week in the gym. We dropped 6 hours off of her exercise time, and she started getting better results. So how do we optimize the metabolism along with your hormones? Because they kind of go hand in hand unless we have specific issues, which is a completely different webinar, completely different workshop. This is basically just kind of a general idea. If you want to start, if you don't have any specific issues, this is where we start kind of repairing the inside of our body, repairing our internal foundation. Number one is stop dieting. Like, when we're dieting for a long time, losing weight is a stress on the body, no matter how happy it might make you. Because again, the body and brain exist for survival, not happiness. So your hormones tank and you feel like garbage. You have low energy for everything you do. As we're kind of dieting, like, again, like, even though you like seeing the scale go down, what ends up happening is it goes down, but you're happy. Like, psychologically, you're ecstatic. This is exactly what you want. Physiologically, your body's going, holy shit, we're literally dissolving. We're literally not able to maintain our current level of mass. Your body is actually dissolving. That's a stress. Whether you might be psychologically ecstatic, but your body hates it, does not want to change whatsoever. So this kind of goes to the idea that we were talking about before. Number two, slowly add more. Your metabolism adapts slower through restriction, therefore it speeds up through abundance. Go slow, being very, very careful, being very, very meticulous with this, adding 50 to 100 calories every 1 to 2 weeks so that the body has time to adjust, but not spill over into body fat. The body will prioritize muscle gain when combined with strength training. When you send the signal to your body to strength train, to build muscle, while slowly increasing calories, your body will start to prioritize that muscle tissue because of how hard the signal you're sending. And this minimizes fat gain. And this is where most programs tend to miss the mark, because the way we've done it before is we've dropped calories, we lost weight. Hell, some people reached their goal. They got ecstatic. And then they quit the diet and went back to what they were doing. And they blew up again. Weight Watchers, keto, right? Ideal protein. All of these thrive on the fact that you'll lose a bunch of weight. Then the moment, and you'll reach your goal, and the moment you get off their program, then you gain the weight back because you have no idea what to do. They didn't give you an exit plan. And so that means you're going to keep coming back. This is the missing link that most programs leave out so you can come back, is to slowly add more kind of approach to once you've reached your goal or when you're trying to come out of a metabolically damaged body. This needs to be a non-negotiable part of the process. Like, this is the first step I take when I'm taking one-on-one clients, as we slowly go into this protocol. This is how you heal your body from the inside and prime the metabolism for future fat loss while restoring hormonal harmony within the body. Referring back to this, when we're talking about hormones, what, there's this guy, an extra 5 right there. Why? I don't know where that came from. Anyway, referring back to this, that like when we're talking about hormones and like the internal function of our body, that's 70% of the work. And then your thermic effect of food, slowly increasing the calories in through food, through whole natural foods, you're going to increase your thermic effect of food. So now I find it funny that like the food one is not called eat. That missed the mark there. But anyway, I digress. I'm getting distracted. But it's the idea is like, this is what we're focusing on. The 70% is what we're focusing on, because now we're feeding the body. Like, again, when you're deprived the body of nutrients through chronic restriction, crazy restriction, then your body is not actually giving you the nutrients it needs to have the temperature regulation, to have healthy hair, skin, and nails, stuff like that. That's all this. That's all BMR. BMR is basically the you existing. Like the calories you burn just by existing, right? By laying in your bed. Like, you wake up in the bed, you lay there for 16 hours, then you go back to sleep, right? The doing nothing is still 70. You're still getting 70% of your total calories burned in a day. So how do we optimize that? We slowly bring back the nutrition to be able to feed our body and feed those kind of internal functions so that they're working at max capacity. So they're maximizing their output. You're sleeping better, your hormones are better, and now your BMR overall starts to increase. Therefore, your metabolism starts to increase. Number 3, everyone saw this one coming. Everyone knows I love strength training. 2 to 3 days a week is a really good starting point. Ideally, 3 to 5. The idea that I like to talk about here is the least amount of work to elicit the greatest amount of change. So if you're somebody who has never picked up a weight in your life, 1 to 2 days a week is still great, because that's the minimum amount of work that we need to start eliciting a forward change, because 1 day is infinitely better than 0 in every regard. Some people will look at that and be like, oh, 1 day is not enough. I've had clients in person get phenomenal results with 1 day a week in the gym. It takes longer, but it does happen. And because it's a great starting point. If you were doing nothing before and you do 1 day a week, you are doing literally infinitely more than you were before. And this is what's going to create that lean tone physique, right? Because muscle definition is the foundation of muscle, right? Like, muscle tone and definition equals the foundation of muscle, then reducing the body fat that's covering it. And on the right, my client here was only doing cardio. We reduced the cardio from that 10 hours a week of cardio down to 4 hours a week of lifting weights while increasing calories. And this is the result she got. Muscle is the most metabolically active tissue you have on your body. If you want to be healthy with a roaring metabolism that makes fat loss seamless and enjoyable, if you want that lean, toned, athletic look, you must have a solid foundation of muscle first. If this is not in place, there's a really good chance the weight you gain will be body fat, and the weight you lose will come from what little muscle you already had, which means your body fat percentage could actually increase. If you're not telling the body it's important to keep the muscle you have at the very least, then your body's going to be like, okay, well, this is expensive, right? It's the most metabolically active tissue you have. Muscle burns up to like 30 to 50% more calories than any other tissue in your body. That's a lot, right? And so that means having muscle in your body is the biggest ROI, return on investment, you're ever going to have when it comes to speeding up your metabolism. And so if you're not lifting weights and you're going into a calorie deficit, trying to lose weight, yeah, you might lose weight, but you're going to lose more muscle than you will body fat. And therefore, your body fat percentage actually increases, even though the scale is going down. And that's not what we want. A little bit of a shout out here. So Dr. Gabriel Lyon, or yeah, Gabriel Lyon. I used to always say Leon because that's what I thought it was. It's Lyon. Dr. Gabriel Lyon. She is basically leading the charge on what she calls muscle-centric medicine. And she has two quotes I really love. We do not live in an over-fat society, but rather an under-muscled one. Muscle is the organ of longevity. There is direct correlation where the more muscle mass you have on your body, the longer you're going to live. And she also wrote a book called Forever Strong. I've read it. I absolutely love it. I 10 out of 10 recommend. If you want to pick that up and kind of really deep dive into the science of and the benefits of muscle, huge recommendation. Phenomenal book. I loved it. And she has some pretty good protocols in there that are really easy to follow. Super like beginner friendly, intermediate, advanced. Phenomenal book. If you want to learn more about the benefits of strength training, phenomenal. When it comes to strength training, barbells and dumbbells are going to be ideal. Machines are also great. But you can easily get away with just body weight exercises so long as you're always pushing that kind of 1 or 2 reps shy of failure. However, doing the body weight stuff will tend to take longer. Does tend to take longer because it's not extra added resistance. It's just the same body weight. And ideally, I mean, if you're losing weight anyway, you're actually getting lighter. So the resistance that you're applying to your body when you do body weight workouts are going to be less and less as time goes on anyway. So barbells and dumbbells are going to be ideal. Machines are great too. A lot of people like to shit on machines. A lot of people like to say the machines are not good. I would say from a body function standpoint, barbells and dumbbells are the way to go. However, the nice thing about machines is that you're locked in position, which means you don't have to worry as much about instability, right? If you see somebody who has a barbell on their back and they're doing a squat, they might get shaky knees. They might move around their torso. They might do funky things with their neck, trying to stand back up. And that's not as conducive. That might help train the body to be more stable. However, it's not good for muscle building because your body's spending so much energy trying to stay stable that it can't produce force through the muscle like you want. So that's where machines can come in. Machines, you can sit down, you're locked in position. You don't have to worry about external stability because the machine's doing it for you. And you just have to worry about making sure you're pushing hard and challenging the muscle. And it actually makes it a lot easier. You can actually build a lot more muscle using machines than you can barbells and dumbbells. I would say barbells and dumbbells, however, have the added benefit of making you more functionally strong, more hip stability, more knee stability, more spinal support, stuff like that. Whereas machines can't do that. So I would say probably like 60 to 80% barbells and dumbbells. And then I would throw in some machines if we really want to maximize muscle growth. Beginners, I would say try to aim for 2 to 3 days a week, full body workouts. Why? Because I don't want you hitting one thing so hard that you're sore for days afterwards. If you're so sore from workout A that you can't do workout B, that's a problem. So I like full body workouts just to kind of avoid that. And that way, frequency plays a role too. The more you tell the body something is important, the more likely it's going to start adapting favorably in that direction. So hitting everything 2 to 3 days a week is a really good way to make sure that. And if you miss a day, you're always still hitting everything twice, right? So intermediate, I would say 4 days a week, doing like an upper lower rest the weekend, right? So like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, rest the other days, get your walks in, stuff like that. Make those a priority on those days. And then I'll allow that as well. Beginners can get away with it as well. I just prefer the other method, the full body method, simply because it allows for easier time recovering. And the last thing we want is you to get discouraged because you're so sore that you end up skipping a workout. And we all know we kind of have this perfectionism problem where if we can't do it all, why bother? So this minimizes that side of things as well. So it's also for like a mental game as well. I want to talk about the kind of 4 major principles when we're kind of going into the gym. Yeah, one is the idea of progressive overload. This is basically number 1. It's essentially you have to constantly progress the stress. The idea is if you have a 10-pound dumbbell and you've been doing 10 reps at 10 pounds for like 4 weeks, there's a really good chance your body adapted to that like 2 weeks ago and it stopped getting stronger because it already adapted to the stress being placed upon it. So staying with the same weight for weeks on end, I've seen people not change a thing for over a year. And then they kind of get frustrated that they're not getting the results. They don't look like they exercise and they're kind of getting frustrated. Here's the thing. It's like, if you're not giving yourself a reason to continue growing, your body's not going to grow. If you're not applying more stress to the muscle, then the body goes, cool, I'm already good enough to handle this. I don't need to keep growing. So this is why I like something called a double progression method. And this is basically the idea of, you have a rep range of like 8 to 10 reps. Pick a weight that is really that you basically hit the appropriate level of struggle at 8. And then the next week, pick the same weight, but try for 9. Then on week 3, pick the same weight, try for 10. And if you hit 10, you know you've gotten stronger, go heavier, and then restart the process. That's how you know you're always going to be progressing in 2 different ways: weight and load. And both of them are reps and load is what I meant to say. Basically, you're getting more work done with the same weight, which means you're progressing. And then at some point, you're going up in weight, which means you're progressing again. It's a really kind of like a no-brainer way of making sure that we're always progressing in the right direction. Principle specificity, also known as the SAID principle, specific adaptation to imposed demands. That's a big one. So I just say specificity because that one makes it a little bit easier. Basically, train for the thing you want to train for. If you're saying like, I want to have more balance so that I can walk around in day-to-day life and like stay on my feet easier, great. Don't stand on a balance board, because that's training you to be better at balancing on balance boards. Your body, the way your body adapts to stress is very, very specific. So if you're standing on a balance board or standing on a Bosu ball being like, I'm working my balance, no, you're working for the circus. Stay on the ground. Do like stuff on one leg on the floor or on the ground. That will teach your body to build specific balance to the earth that you spend 99% of your time on. That is going to get you actual balance, not standing on a ball. So the idea is like, whatever it is that you're training for, make sure that how we're spending time in the gym kind of mimics that, or is utilizing the same tools that we want to work towards. Most people just want to be healthy. So just be on your feet. Don't be on a ball. One, proper rest times. A lot of people, especially you type A personalities out there, just want to keep go, and you don't want to stop. Problem, stress. If we're not recovering, you're either under stress or adaptation. Right? Talked about that before. So we need to make sure that our stress is being recovered from, which means we need longer rest times. Now, this also depends, again, the principle of specificity. If you're looking to get muscle endurance, then yeah, have shorter rest times, because that's specifically going to help with the endurance problem that you're trying to solve. You're not letting yourself recover fully. But if you want to build muscle, then we need to focus on quality over quantity. So we want to extend our rest time so that every single time we go back to do an exercise, we need to make sure that we're recovered enough to still give that 10 out of 10 effort. So like 2 to 3 minutes tends to be like the sweet spot for muscle growth and strength gains. Whereas like a minute or less, which is what so many people will see all the time, that more intense, get that heart rate up, got to sweat, got to burn, right? Got to get that endurance, got to hit failure all the time. And so the idea is that they're always working, but they're never recovering. But that is going to help with muscle endurance. So it depends on kind of what we're after there. But because when we're talking about the metabolism, when we're talking about healing our body, we want to have less stress, not more. So extend the rest period, make sure the quality is top notch, and really push that quality to make sure that we're building as much muscle as possible to go towards having a better metabolism, while also being strong and giving us that kind of that oomph in life, essentially. Like, this is how you boost your hormones. When you strength train, your body has a dump of growth hormone, while also a dump of cortisol, which is kind of counterintuitive, cortisol being the stress hormone. So you get the growth hormone, which is considered the fountain of youth. So strength training does that, cardio doesn't. So take strength training. But also when I talk about cortisol, if I told you that, hey, look, here's a thing that gets you red flesh skin, super sweaty, muscle soreness, maybe vomiting, right? You're heavy breathing, your heart rate gets elevated. You're probably going to be like, fuck no, I'm dying. That's exercise. But what we're doing is we're applying stress in a controlled manner and then recovering from it. So that actually teaches the body to be more resilient to cortisol, meaning things that were normally stressful are now a lot less stressful because your body understands how to naturally manage cortisol. Strength training does that. This is how you look better naked. This is how you build that foundation of muscle. It's how you build that confidence in yourself. This is where you strengthen your body so you don't hurt all the time. This is where you like look good in a backless dress or a bathing suit, right? This is how you develop like the strength and energy to go out and do what you want in the world. Like take that hiking trip with your friends, play with your kids and grandkids, and basically, you know, being strong is the ultimate cheat code to just a better quality of life and the results in every way manageable. Being strong makes life easier and more enjoyable. Full stop. It's also the best defense we have against Alzheimer's and dementia. More muscle mass. Best defense we have against Alzheimer's and dementia. Good for blood sugar control. Your muscle mass is the storage for glucose, for blood glucose. It gets funneled into the muscle. Think of muscle as a storage container. So if you want to have blood sugar, lower blood sugar, you got to make sure you have muscle mass for that sugar to go. Like that sugar needs somewhere to go. Muscle is that storage container, which also means it's the best defense we have against insulin resistance, PCOS, menopause, hormone imbalance, because now osteoporosis, diabetes, 70% of all known cancers, muscle mass protects against. Because think about it, when they have cancers, they lay in their bed, they slowly shrivel. What happens? They run out of muscle mass. Muscle is where a lot of your sensors are, like sensory organ. It's a sensory organ. And so it's where a lot of your nerves are. So what happens when you lose just an astronomical amount of cancer? What's going to happen is you're going to lose those kind of sensory neurons that connect to your nervous system. And so what happens is cancer drains the muscle. Once they have very little muscle left, that's when the rest of their internal organs start to shut down. That's when their brain starts to shut down. So 70% of all known cancers cannot not cure. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is they help the process. You're more likely to survive the process. You're more likely to actually make it through. Muscle mass is the best defense against over 70% of all known cancers that we have. And also keeps you out of the old folks' home, so you could stick around for your family in the long term. We also know that 1 of every 3 people that after the age of 65, when they fall, will break their hip. We also know that 1 in 3 of those people will be dead within a year because of the lifestyle that was forced upon them due to that injury. The ability to shoot your leg out in front of you to catch you when you fall. The ability to, when you fall, grab onto a counter and keep yourself up. One of the number 1 reasons why someone gets admitted into the old folks' home, into care, is because they can't stand up after sitting down on the toilet. That comes from strength. That's strength. Strength training is one of the most important things you could ever do to maximize your health. And nothing makes me more proud as a trainer or a coach than when a woman embraces her power to change and empowers herself by becoming the super mom she always wanted to be for her kids by getting stronger in the gym. When I see a mom come in and be like, oh man, like I'm so nervous, I don't want to pick up a weight. What if I hurt myself? Like all the normal things. And then they eventually pick up like 225 pounds, 300 pounds. Like they are so blown away and like they become their own biggest cheerleaders because they feel so powerful as a human being, as a mom, just because they decided to get stronger in the gym. They took that and they managed to take that and create something of them with themselves, right? They committed to it and they actually built that strength. And now they're able to run around and play with their kids, their grandkids, and all that sort of thing. It's strength that allows that to happen. And nothing makes me more proud than when I see that in the gym. I get so excited. Next, number 4, walking 7,500 to 10,000 steps a day. Why do I prefer this over cardio? Way more prefer this over cardio. First off, like I talked about earlier, it's low impact. Therefore, it has much less of a demand. It reduces cortisol. It's a natural stress reliever. It's low impact. It lowers blood sugar. It lowers blood pressure. And 7,500 steps or more has been shown to reduce all-cause mortality by up to 60%. What does that mean? What does all-cause mortality mean? Basically, your means how you die of any natural causes. Like dying from anything natural reduces by 60%. it promotes, because it's so low intensity, it'll tap into your fat stores rather than muscle stores, especially when you're chronically low dieting. When you are chronically low dieting, when you start doing cardio, you start telling your body, hey, I'm trying to be good at this cardio thing. Muscle is really heavy. Muscle doesn't, it's really expensive. It takes a lot of energy. It's really heavy. It's kind of clunky. It's slowing us down a bit. So we're going to start breaking down muscle instead of body fat because we don't need this muscle to be good at running. If you ever look at marathon runners, they're kind of shrivelly. Look at sprinters, they're lean, toned, right? Because it's a power output, muscle building. And so,
can I interject for a second? Sorry, yeah. I just had a question.
Yeah.
How long do you have to be doing the walking activity for it to start having those benefits, like, you know, the 60% of all mortality rates or whatever?
The studies that showed it took about 3 to 6 months of doing it consistently to really cap out the benefits. It doesn't keep going the more you walk. Basically,
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious. Is it like weeks, months? Yeah.
Yeah, before everything kind of settled into place. Because again, adaptation, right? The body slowly begins to adapt. It basically starts checking all those boxes. Hey, good things are happening. We're good now. Make sense?
Totally.
Perfect. And again, exercise only accounts for 5% of all of your total calories burned in a day. So killing yourself in the gym to burn more is just a losing battle. But walking is a part of NEAT, which is that 10 to 15%, therefore resulting in a higher ROI. It's free, it's accessible to everyone. Some simple ways to start increasing your steps: park further away. One of the things that I started doing, which kind of drove Kate nuts when she was pregnant, is I would always park as far away as humanly possible from the entrance to the shopping mall. I would support her, but I still did that. And that allowed us to still keep up that activity. And she thanked me for it afterwards. So don't give me that scowl. I see it. But the idea is park further away. Those spots are always empty because no one's racing to be further away. They're always racing to be up front. So park further away. You're going to start getting your steps up that way, right? Take the stairs when you go out to eat, and we'll talk about walking after a meal later. But the idea is going, when you go out to eat, when you go to a restaurant, park to like a quarter mile away. Give yourself a little bit of fun to kind of walk with the family, talk about the dinner, talk about what you liked. But it gives you some time for one, not only more connection, but it also allows you to get a little bit more activity that way, right? And this is by far, again, the most impactful thing you can do for your health that costs absolutely nothing. It's just walk more, get outside, enjoy the fresh air. And again, post-meal walks are another cheat code for benefit, for overall better quality of life. Why specifically after a meal? Because after a meal, your body is absorbing, digesting nutrients. Therefore, blood sugar starts to increase. What does walking do? It's a physical exercise. It uses energy. Therefore, it stabilizes the blood sugar response after a meal. Also, what blood sugar is still left over after that is getting recycled. Because as you're walking, you're creating muscle contractions, therefore going through your stored energy, your stored muscle glycogen, giving that blood glucose somewhere to go because you've emptied the storage container and now you have more room for the stuff afterwards that you're currently digesting. It's actually been shown that walking after a meal, just 10 minutes after a meal, has double the effectiveness at controlling blood sugar as metformin. Metformin is a drug designed to regulate blood sugar. Walking just 10 minutes after a meal is double as effective as metformin. It improves digestion because you have gravity kind of pulling things through. It improves nutrient partitioning, which is basically, that's essentially telling your body what it needs to do with the nutrients. So we have nutrients coming in, but if we just eat and then go sit on the couch, a lot of the times what happens is like it's lazy. And so your body is kind of digesting. It's kind of casually, very nonchalantly absorbing the nutrients, getting into the blood and kind of shuttling it around. But if you're active, you're actively going to be speeding up the digesting process. You're going to be speeding up the delivery process of those nutrients, but you're giving your body a signal, hey, we need to do stuff. These nutrients that are coming in, we need to be really efficient and effective at where we put what we do with these nutrients. So it goes to the brain faster, which is the master and commander of your entire body. Anything that's good for the brain is good for metabolism, good for hormones, good for gut health, good for everything, right? And so it basically tells your body a better signal of what to do with the nutrients coming in. But what if you're super sedentary? What if, like, you're 500 steps a day, which is abysmally low, but let's just say we're that, right? Looking at 7,500 steps, that's an insane amount. There's no way that I can commit to that. So why bother? We're going to fix that right now. Just do more. Like, have your phone, download a step tracker, track for a week, take that total across the week, divide by 7, and you now have your daily average. Then just try to do 500 more than that each week, which is about 5 to 7 minutes. That's nothing, right? We walk at about like roughly 1,000 steps every 10 minutes when that's our intention, right? So ideally, if we want to add 500 more steps to that, 5 to 7 minutes. 7 if you're a slow walker. And just do that. Next, if you're a client of mine, or if you've been following me for a long time, you saw this coming. Eat more protein and fiber. Remember the TEF, 10 to 15%. Protein and fiber will give you your highest ROI as far as nutrition goes. So TEF, again, thermic effective food. Protein specifically has a 30% TEF, meaning if you eat 1,000 calories of protein, just pure protein, you will burn 300 of those calories just through the digestion process, right? So this also slows down the digestion of other nutrients, which is going to help control blood sugar, which also shuts down hunger hormones. A little thing about that I learned recently about protein is that Ozempic is this big craze right now, right? GLP-1 agonists. GLP-1 being a hormone that your pancreas releases to go, hey, you're not hungry. Protein releases GLP-1. Protein is a GLP-1 agonist. So if you're eating enough protein, you are shutting down the hunger signals. It also takes a long time. Spelling mistake. I see you. TM. A long TM time to digest. At the bottom there. Anyway, it takes a long time to digest, which is going to reduce overall hunger as well. Yeah. So this is huge. Protein is king. Protein is king of nutrition. I can have 2 people at the same calorie deficit that will burn drastically different calories if one has more protein and fiber. I have a client who experienced this. They were eating 2,100 calories every single day. They weren't gaining, they weren't losing. They were just maintaining. Like, man, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. And so I talked to her, like, oh, well, where's your protein at? They're like, about 70 to 75. And I was like, okay, let's slowly double that. And let's slowly bring that up to 150 and just see what happens. And as she started increasing her protein intake, staying at 2,100 calories, which means she was manipulating carbs and fats a bit to make sure the protein stuck in there, she managed to start losing weight at the exact same calories, despite the fact that the only thing she changed was she was eating more protein. That's how powerful eating more protein can be. Protein and fiber are also the most nutrient-dense foods found in nature. Red meat, salmon, eggs, fruits, vegetables, beans, kidney, all those sort of things, right? Protein is also the building blocks for muscles, which we already talked about, but it's also the building blocks for happy hormones. Like nutrients, in order for your body to make hormones, it needs nutrients, not proteins, carbs, and fats, but I'm talking like magnesium, like zinc, all that sort of thing. Zinc, especially for testosterone, calcium, we all know that. And so the idea here is we need nutrition, like actual nutrients, in order to actually build our hormones to actually function in this proper way. And then also brain function. Like I said, your brain is the master and commander of your body, right? So that's going to help with brain fog. Nutrition helps. Proper nutrition is going to help with muscle cramps, energy levels, energy slumps in the middle of the day, getting that, improving that sleep quality, and just so much more. So eating natural protein from as many different sources as we can is going to help kind of give a complete nutrition profile for the day. My recommendations for protein is 1 gram per pound of body weight. If you have a lot of weight to lose, like 20 plus, I would put 1 gram per pound of goal body weight. That's going to cover a ton of your bases for your metabolism, for muscle, for fat loss. Fiber, looking at 25 plus for women, ideally 35, and men 35 plus, ideally 40 plus. And lastly, again, we're talking about sleep. Sleep is the magic pill you're looking for no matter what goal you have. Nothing improves all areas of life as quickly as good quality sleep. Without this, fat loss will be minimal, muscle loss will be increased, muscle gain will be minimal, stress ramps up, metabolism crashes and burns, and cravings skyrocket. Sleep is fundamental to your success. Sleep is at the foundation of what we do here in the inner coaching practice, is the foundation that holds up the pyramid that is our quality of life. And it's actually more important for you to get quality 7 hours or more of sleep than it is to wake up and go work out. Like if you're going to wake up an hour early to go work out, I would rather tell you to go back to bed. That's how powerful sleep is. They did a study where there were 2 control groups, and one of them got one group got 7 hours of sleep. The other got 5.5 hours of sleep. The calorie deficit was the same across the board. Everyone had, it was very controlled. Everyone had the exact like nutrition they needed to be in the same calorie deficit across the board. The people who got 5.5 hours of sleep was almost a 50-50 fat and muscle loss. The people who got 7 hours of sleep was like an 80-20. Like 80% of their weight loss came from body fat. And only 20% came from muscle loss. That's how powerful sleep is. The nutrition, everything, their entire lifestyle was exactly the same. The only thing that changed was how much sleep they got. If you sacrifice sleep and or rely on coffee and pre-workouts or other stimulants to get you through the day, then you're stepping over $100 bills to pick up pennies. Sleep needs to be a non-negotiable, just full stop. This needs to be something that we work on. So how? Proper hydration. That's huge. 1% dehydration is like I think it was like a 30 to 40% cognitive decline. So let's make sure we're getting sleep, morning sunlight. So one of the best things you can do is drink a glass of water, go for a morning walk. Get that sunlight in the eyes. Why? Because of all the light in our environment nowadays, our brain doesn't know what time it is. So when you wake up and just start scrolling on your phone, or just kind of lay in bed and kind of don't really do anything, you kind of just like meander about, what ends up happening is your body doesn't know what time it is, doesn't even know how to be awake yet. Like it just doesn't understand what's going on. And so, especially with the blue light from our phones, which is kind of like this false light signal that your brain's like, what is this? And it actually helps elevate your cortisol even more. If you go outside and you get sunlight in the eyes, what that does is it tells your brain, hey, it's morning time. It's time to wake up. It's time to be alert. It's time to go do daytime things. The other thing it does is it signals to the brain, hey, it's morning now, which means in about 12 to 14 hours, it'll be nighttime, which means I'm going to set the clock now to trigger melatonin in about 12 to 14 hours. It actually sends the signal, hey, you've got about 12 to 14 hours now before I start making you sleepy. But if we don't get that light in the eyes early, then our brain never actually wakes up, because everything in our body runs on a clock called the circadian rhythm. Every single thing in your body runs on that clock, and it relies on sunlight to understand when to set that clock. So get outside early, just get some light in the eyes. Hard exercise, earn your sleep, build adenosine. So essentially, we all know that if you work hard outside, like you have a long day of work, or like a long day of like hard physical labor, or if you're doing like going to the gym really, really regularly, you sleep better because you build up something called adenosine. One, you break down your muscle, your body wants to sleep and recover, so it can get there. Adenosine is a part of a molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. It is the energy currency in the body. I'm realizing this workshop is going a lot longer than I wanted to. I'm still rambling, even though I made it so I don't ramble. Damn it. So adenosine is basically a part of a molecule called ATP that essentially, when you do exercise, is the energy currency in the body. When you do exercise, ATP breaks apart, adenosine goes up into the brain, and phosphate goes to your muscles so you can contract, so you can keep doing your thing. What adenosine does is it builds up in the brain, and it signals to the brain to reduce brain inflammation. So there's that. That's a huge thing we need to focus on. But it also basically means that when your brain releases melatonin, you have adenosine receptors in your brain that the moment melatonin gets released, the adenosine attaches to the adenosine receptors in your brain, and it's time to go to bed. You worked your ass off today. You need to sleep and recover. Adenosine is also one of the 4 building blocks to all DNA that exists in the universe. Not super relevant for this, but I thought it was really cool. But that should also explain how important this is. That if it's one of the 4 building blocks of all things that exist in the universe, we should probably make sure attention to it. So that's also how daily walks work as well. Like, again, when you're walking, you're building up more adenosine as well. That's why it's so important. Afternoon and evening sunlight. This is just really quick. It's the exact same thing as the morning. When you get out, when you go to the afternoon and spend all day in the sun at the beach and you're exhausted that day, it actually has less to do with the fact that you were physically active. Most of us just sit and sunbathe, yet we're still exhausted. Why? Because that same thing happens in the afternoon. You look at the sunlight gets in the eyes, and you go, okay, we're now halfway through our day. Let's start ramping up more adenosine in the brain. Evening sunlight, the exact same thing as morning, but the opposite. Your brain goes, oh, sun's setting, time to do sleepy things. So that's when it starts triggering more melatonin, more adenosine release. You see where this is going. This is also why not yet. So when we talk about getting our post meal walks, now you start to see where the puzzle pieces start to fit together. If you take a walk after breakfast, there's your morning sunlight. If you take a walk after lunch, there's your afternoon sunlight. If you take a walk after dinner, there's your evening sunlight. Now you're ticking so many boxes just with that one habit to ensure that you're improving your overall health. Just that one thing. That's why I think that going for a walk after your major meals might be one of the biggest cheat codes you have for your health. So many good things start to happen when you just make that one change. High carb dinner. This one gets a lot of people. So a lot of people are like, oh no, carbs. If I have carbs past 6 o'clock, I'm going to get fat. No, again, we talk about the metabolism, sum total of all chemical reactions that happen within your body. No, just because you ate after dinner does not suddenly quadruple the amount of calories you're consuming because they're carbs. That does not work. It's not how that works. But here's what carbs do is we know that insulin and cortisol have an inverse relationship, which is also why whenever you're super stressed, you crave sugary foods because your body goes, oh shit, I'm stressed. How do I decrease stress? Spike insulin. How do I spike insulin the fastest, most effective way right away? Sugary foods. But we can use this to our advantage because we know that your body, your brain cannot produce melatonin or serotonin if you're stressed. So use dinner, have a high carb dinner to spike insulin and drop cortisol so that you start feeling sleepy. Now, of course, don't eat carbs by themselves. Make sure we're having protein, carbs, and fats. Protein, fiber, and fats to slow down the digestion so the blood sugar spike isn't so insane. And then you have such an insane drop off that you end up getting sleepy, or that you end up waking up. Because that'll happen. If you ever have just carbs before bed, you'll like wake up in the middle of the night wide awake. Like, have you ever done that? It's because what happened is the blood sugar spike went up and then drastically crashed. And what ended up happening is that crash woke you up, and now you're like, oh, you're wide awake. That blood sugar spike woke you up, and now you are very alert. We don't want that. So never have naked carbs, never have carbs by themselves. Make sure you always have something with it. But if you have a high carb dinner, you can utilize that to your advantage. And if you're like me and you work out first thing in the morning, now you're primed and ready to go with a ton of energy for your workout in the morning. That's a me thing. But if you like working out in the morning, that's another thing. So high carb dinner, phenomenal for improving sleep. Dark, cool room. Nighttime, again, evening walks, nighttime, it starts to cool down, triggers the body. Hey, it's nighttime. We got to do nighttime things. Dark, nighttime. We got to go do nighttime things, right? Those ones are kind of no brainer. Some of us have partners that like to watch TV in the middle, like when people are sleeping. Don't look away, Kate. That was you. That's not you anymore. We don't do that anymore. But I know some clients that have partners that have a big, huge TV in their room that have that on when they're trying to sleep. So I recommend just investing in a really good sleep mask. Something that doesn't touch your eyes because that can get annoying and makes you want to take it off. But there's a really good company called Manta Sleep Mask. Phenomenal sleep mask. They're adjustable, and you can kind of and they don't touch the eyes. I've been wearing mine for like 6 years, and I love it. And I roll like I'm on my side, I'm on my back, and it never really gets irritating. So that's a really good thing to do if you have a partner that likes to watch TV while you guys are falling asleep. And most importantly, have a consistent bedtime and routine. One of the reasons why people hate Mondays so much, we all hear that, right? It's Monday. I hate Monday. I'm so tired. Screw Mondays. Here's what typically happens is from Monday to Friday, you have a regular routine because you have work, you have school, whatever it is, you have some sort of schedule and routine. Then the weekend comes and you go, hallelujah, I can sleep in. And then your body again everything runs off the circadian rhythm, that internal clock, and it goes, oh shit, we're not getting up at the time we're normally getting up. Okay, maybe it's a one-time thing, no worries, we'll get back on track tomorrow, right? And you're like, hell no. And then so now Sunday you also sleep in, and now your body's like, oh, this is our new normal, got it, and starts to adjust everything to this new time. Then Monday rolls around and you go back to what you were doing, and your body goes, Jesus Christ, please pick something. You're not normally getting up for another 4 hours. And so guess what? You're exhausted. You're the low mood. You're irritable. You don't want to get up. Everything sucks because we're not respecting our body's natural internal clock. By having a consistent bedtime, you will do so much good for that, because now your body goes, okay, like for me, for example, 7:30, like that's usually my bedtime. So it goes, hey, it's 7. You're tired now. Now you have melatonin, like regardless, right? And so now it's because it's consistent. The body loves routine. Speaking of routine, the body loves routine. The body loves association. So if you have a routine, like for example, we take our dog for a walk, now our daughter, and then we come home, we like shower, we bathe our daughter, then we go to bed, and we kind of just do our wind down thing there. And because we do that every single night, sleep, like getting to sleep, is a lot easier. Because the moment we start the first thing, the body goes, oh, sleep is coming. Let's start getting ready for it. So having some sort of consistency of bedtime and consistency in routine before we go to bed, it could be 15 minutes long. Ours is like an hour because it's kind of up to the whims of our daughter. Sometimes she lets us go to sleep earlier. Sometimes it's a 3-hour routine because of that. But it is what it is. But because of that, when it's time to go to sleep, you can fall asleep really quickly. Stress management. This is the last one. However, I'm not going to go fully deep into it because I'm going to just do another one next week. But chronic cortisol is connected to over 95% of all known sicknesses, illnesses, and diseases. It ruins gut health and hormones incredibly fast because, like I said, your body goes into survival mode, not happiness mode. Especially things like hypothyroidism. When stress goes up, and it's more so in menopausal women. In menopause, you no longer have the estrogen and progesterone, which can kind of act as a hormonal buffer for cortisol. Those aren't there anymore, and they kind of protect the thyroid. So when you're super stressed and you're going through big hormonal changes like PCOS, menopause, whatever it is, man, your thyroid is under so much attack because of the high stress and no hormonal buffers, which can obviously keep the metabolism tanked until you're out of that fight or flight response. So again, next week, I'm going to go live again, do another workshop. And I'm going to go over all the primary methods I use with my clients. The reason why I want to do another workshop is because it's been an hour and a half. My God, much more than I wanted it to be, but I apologize for that, for taking so much time. Thank you so much for being here. My God. But stress is such a big thing that I'm going to do its own workshop on stress. There's a lot of techniques here, and I want to make sure to also address things like emotional eating, stress eating, which will just take some time. So, man, thank you so much for being here. I know time is one of the few resources that we can't get back. And so the fact that you stuck around for the hour and a half here, like, I don't take that lightly. Thank you so much. Like, that this is huge. So I got a couple minutes left for Q&A, and then I got a couple calls I got to get to. So if you have any questions, either type them in the chat or come off mute, and we can have that chat.
I'm full of them tonight because God knows I don't get them when I do the check-in form. Uh, but going back to the routine.
Yeah.
If you're out of your routine, again, with that sleep in on the weekends and whatnot,
Yeah.
you were talking like, oh, we're not getting up for 4 hours. What's this? Well, what if it's only more like an hour? Is it still that much of a disruption?
Uh,
Or like, are we talking it has to be like 3-4 hours different in time to be that big disruption?
That was
in that
literally the same question I had because I
in
sleep
that
in
case,
till 7.
yeah, like an hour isn't really going to make or break because the sun more or less is roughly in the same general spot in the sky. That's the thing that throws things off. Like I said, the sunlight is how we read what time it is. So if I sleep in an hour, not the end of the world. It's not going to change much. As long as your morning routine kind of looks similar, then your body can just start getting back into rhythm really, really quickly. Some people, I'm going to throw my brother under the bus here, but when we first moved to the city, he would like used to wake up at the same time I did, which is like 4 or 5 in the morning. Then we moved to the city and he's like, oh, cool. I'm going to sleep in until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's the extreme other end of the spectrum. But some people do that. Some people are like, man, I wake up at 5:30 every day to go to work. Man, I just don't want to get up that early. Fuck, that's so early. I don't want to do it. It's just too early. I don't want to do it. And then so now they sleep in until like 8, which is like a 2.5, 3 hour difference. Then they wake up, they feel sluggish throughout the entire day. They have no energy, et cetera, et cetera. Sunday, they do the same thing. They feel a little bit better because now things are starting to shift. So they feel a little bit better on Sunday. And then Monday rolls around, they go back to what they were doing before. And now their brain's like, what is happening? But yeah, an hour isn't really going to change much. As long as your morning routine more or less looks the same, you'll be good.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I don't. You answered so many questions that I had and so many things that I didn't even realize that I was doing backwards.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like crazy cardio. Like I
Yep.
run 5 kilometers, right? And it's
Yep.
like doing nothing good.
Here's the thing
Not
though,
nothing
is
good.
because this always has to be taken into consideration is the individual preference. Do you like running?
I do.
Cool, keep it. The idea is we can keep that in the program while adding strength training, and
Okay.
that'll still help because that's the thing as well. Is a lot of people do cardio because they think that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
Yeah, but then it turns
Total
out you like running,
misconception.
which was fine. Preference matters as well because again, overall stress matters. And if you love running, then it's actually a stress reliever for some people. They get that runner's high, right? Some people love running. I don't understand it. It just right over my head. I'm not a runner. I'm trying to learn how to run because I know it's important. And we as humans are meant to be the best long distance runners on the face of the earth. So I should probably practice it. But damn, do I don't like it.
It is. And I don't do that more than once a week. I run like an
Cool.
average of 3 kilometers a couple of days a
Cool.
week, mostly because of
Yeah.
work. But I do
Yeah, for
love
sure.
it. I really
Yeah,
enjoy
for
it.
sure. Hell yeah. Then
Okay.
yeah, it's one of those things where you keep it in. And then we'll just kind of start sprinkling more strength training in and kind of like to kind of work around that. And we'll kind of work at kind of building it that way, right? And kind of building that internal foundation that we were talking about.
Well, and that's where I've been clueless. I was totally amazed by all of the facts you gave with respect to strength training and what it does for your body. I had no idea.
Yeah, strength
Like
training
none.
is it's insane. It's one of those things where the main benefits are always like, oh, you look sexy. Well, here's the thing. A lot of women are still terrified to pick up a dumbbell because they're afraid it's going to make them look like a man. So, what do we do now? And that's where it's like, cool. You see, like that person there who looks like you want to look, lifts weights. Hey, look at that person. You see that person, how they're running around playing with their kids and grandkids, like can throw them in the air and can keep up with them. It's because they lift weights. It's because they have the strength energy. They have that strength reserve. And even if we take running into consideration here, when you have two people who are exactly the same kind of like pace, right? Like let's say they're doing it like a 20K run, they're doing a marathon, whatever. That last 100 meters, two people are neck and neck. The person who's going to win is the person who can produce more force and go faster.
Gotcha.
That comes from strength. Because even running is micro jumps from one foot to the other for thousands of reps. It's an expression of strength. So the long distance runners that I've trained before, and I have them doing like Romanian deadlifts, which is, I know, a big name, and we'll go over it when we start kind of going over exercises. But it's kind of one of those things where it's like it's training hip extension, which is basically just here's your hip, it extends. We do that every single time we take a step. Every single time. And so the person who could produce more force and hip extension can sprint faster. And therefore, when you have two people neck and neck at the end of the race, and one person has only ran, the other person has ran and strength trained, they're going to have that reserve of strength to push that last little bit faster than the other guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you can lose that pretty fast, hey? Like I had to take a few weeks off because of my injury, and it's like actually more than 2 weeks, like 5 weeks. And it's harder to get back to it. Like I have to mentally get there again.
Muscle memory is a thing. It is a thing. Yeah. So like you get it back really quickly. Kate she's over there on my screen. So I don't know if I'm actually pointing at her or not.
She's right there
on. She's postpartum, right? And so today was her first day back on the gym doing a real strength training routine. We went super duper light, just going through the motions, but it, like she was saying, it humbled her because she hasn't
humbling.
Yeah, because she hasn't done anything for like 8.5, like 10 weeks, right? Because she was still in the gym when she was like more than 9 months pregnant. And but the idea is like just that 8 weeks brought so much down. And so now we're rebuilding it, but she's going to rebuild it really, really fast.
Okay. So there's good news there.
Yeah.
Because I plan on running tomorrow and I'm a little bit worried. If I'm being honest. I'm like,
no, you're good. It's one of those things again. And plus you do 5Ks, right? Right. Is that what you said?
Yeah. 3 to 5.
3
depending
to 5.
how much time I give myself in the morning with my dog.
Yeah, you're good. It's especially once you exceed that like 40 to 60 minute mark and you start going beyond that, you're really kind of tapped out of muscle glycogen and your body goes, okay, you got to start burning more muscle. And unfortunately, a lot of people will be like, when they screw up on their diet, they'll be like, okay, well, I'll just do an extra hour of cardio tomorrow to burn it off. And like I said, that's a losing battle because it's only 5%. It's not actually enough to make any sort of difference. The way I like to say is like, the gym should not be used as a place for punishment and as a way to make up for your mistakes. It should be a place to go and celebrate and build upon what you're physically capable of.
Right.
And that's kind of what I do. And that's one of the things I talk about because I love the gym and more people need to do it. And thankfully, more women are starting to be comfortable lifting weights. And so like I talked about with like Dr. Gabriel Lyon, she's amazing. If you listen to podcasts, please listen to her podcast. She is such a wealth of information. She is like a general practitioner doctor who then also got her PhD in like muscle protein synthesis and how muscle plays a role in overall health. So I'm like, yeah. So like she is like a legit doctor, not just a muscle doctor, which is awesome. Yeah, super smart. I love the way she communicates very effectively. I love her book. I read it. I'm super blown away by it.
Okay. And you think like someone who doesn't have a background like you could understand what she's referring to in her book?
Yep.
Like, would it make sense for the average human?
It was written for the average person. It was written for the average woman, where like not just coach speak. So, which is good because sometimes coaches speak in big words to try and sound smart and it just makes you feel stupid. And then you're like, why am I listening to this? She didn't do that. I do sometimes. I try to catch myself. But that's why I also say, please don't be afraid to tell me to reword things.
Gotcha.
Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah. Not me.
Cool.
I have a question. I know I could ask you this at any point, but I might as well do it here.
Yeah.
In case anybody ever has this question. But I've been struggling with whether or not I should do this, but as you know, postpartum, I'm starting to trying to find my maintenance again.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, because I was doing daily weigh-ins.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if that's a good thing while I'm maintaining, because obviously I want to see my calories, but there's so much fluctuation with like if I eat carbs, like because carbs absorb more water, so water weight's such a big influx and everything. Should I be weighing myself only once a week, or should you continually kind of weigh yourself to monitor it? Because it's so important to obviously figure out if you're gaining weight or not when you're trying to maintain.
This depends on the individual. If you're the kind of person where you step on the scale and it's up a pound, you freak the fuck out and go hit the panic button and go to the tub of ice cream. I would say once a week is putting it lightly. I would say like once a month for that kind of person, because we don't want you falling off the wagon. And so it kind of depends on how you respond to it. The way I look at it and the way I try to coach it is it's just an objective data. It's one unit of data that we collect as coaches to then understand how our body is responding. The idea is to look at it and be like, if you can step on it every single day and never once get bothered no matter what the scale says, and you can look at it and be like, okay, got it. I'm consistently gaining like half a pound every few days. So I'm gaining weight. I'm now gaining like 2.5, 3 pounds a week. I should probably recheck my calories and see if I'm coming back down. And if that's it, awesome. If you just treat it as objective data with no emotions tied to it, I recommend doing it as frequently as possible, so you understand how your body responds to food. But if you're the kind of person who kind of gets a little bit nervous, I would say like twice a week. Once a week kind of gets rough because we don't know when those fluctuations will happen. So if you weigh in today and you've been perfect with your diet and you're technically a pound of fat down, but your body is just holding on to water, it's going to look like the weight's not moving at all, even though you are making progress. So the idea is then like once a week weigh in is like, okay, well, is today a fluctuation day? Because hey, just being a couple days closer to your period, you could be 2 pounds heavier, right? And so, hey, you had a little bit more salt yesterday. You're going to hold on to more water. You didn't have a good sleep last night, so you're stressed. You're going to hold on to more water. You're more inflamed. Every single time I have a hard leg day at the gym, like a hard workout with like heavy squats, deadlifts, stuff like that, I'm guaranteed to be 3 pounds heavier the next day. Every single time. So if I only weigh myself once a week and I step on the scale after a hard leg day, I'm gonna be like, holy shit, I thought I was being perfect with my diet. Why am I 3 pounds up? Right. And so it depends on the individual. Can you step on it frequently without getting that emotional reaction? Or do we need to kind of step it back a couple times? Or I have some clients who don't weigh themselves at all because it has way too much power over them. It has way too much control over whether or not they think the plan's working. And they have to way too much. And like they put so much value on the little tiny number on the little white box they stand on, that if it goes in the wrong direction, they just go full-blown panic mode. So we just get rid of the scale together.
I used to be that person, and I found that just gradually increasing my weigh-ins. Now I do it every day, and I don't freak out. I may get a little bit irritated, but I don't freak out, and I don't panic.
One of my clients has like a written intervention where like she used to be that person, and so she wrote on a piece of paper 2 things. It was like, did you go out to eat yesterday? Because if you go out to a restaurant, so much carbs, so much salt, you're good. Like, even though it's impossible to gain like 2 pounds of fat in a single meal, like in a single day, impossible. But you're gonna think that's what happened. So on the piece of paper it says, did you go to eat yesterday? If yes, why are you weighing yourself like a dumbass? And she was like, god damn it. And then she was like, Chris, I weighed myself after the event last night. And I was like, why? And she's like, I don't know. It even says on the freaking piece, I even knew it would happen. I had the conversation in my head. I know it's going to be up today. I stepped on the scale and it was up today, and I still freaked out, even though I knew it was going to happen. Right. And so it's like, she wrote that, like, did you step on the scale like a dumbass? The second thing she wrote was, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to be an adult and take objective look at the situation, an objective look, and be like, hey, like, here's what happened. Here's why I may have eaten more. Here's maybe what I'm doing wrong that's making the scale go up. And maybe these are the action steps I can put in place to start cleaning up my diet a bit. Or B, am I going to act like a child and go bury my emotions under a tub of ice cream? No adult is going to look at that and be like, yes, child option.
Right.
Right. And so that's
Yeah.
how she just in the moment checks herself from going off the rails.
Yeah.
And that base of the idea is give your brain more options, because your brain's always going to default to what it's always done. And so if you've always freaked out when the scale goes up, then it's going to get harder and harder to not freak out when the scale goes up, because the brain's always going to start defaulting to that. But if you can like give yourself some sort of intervention and do something different, your brain goes, wait, there's a new experience for me to pull from. Now, the next time I step on the scale, I'm less likely to freak out and I'm more likely to start acting accordingly. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, absolutely.
Cool.
I do not weigh myself during my period because that's just not a game any woman should play, depending
Yeah.
on your body.
Yeah.
So,
Caitlin
yeah.
and I have a
It's really
friend.
depressing.
It's very depressing. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, 4 pounds? Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Could be more, right? If you go
Um,
for that meal and you have that, that's
Yep.
I was gonna say 4 pounds would be nice. Sometimes it's like 6 to 8.
yeah,
Yep.
especially if you've eaten. No, it happens.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Kate and I both have a friend named Tamara. She jumped up 13 pounds in 2 days because of that. Her diet was perfectly on point. She weighed and measured everything. She's just doing everything superbly. And then 2 days later, she messages me freaking the fuck out. I'm like, hold on. You know, logically that you did not screw up. You know, that's got to be something else. Let's just give it a few days. And then lo and behold, once her period was over, she was down an extra half pound.
See, that's so hard to reconcile mentally, though. Sometimes, like, that's just stay away from it.
Yeah,
Just, and
then me being a dude, I had a different experience. But like when I was getting ready for my wedding, I use this story all the time. But like in May, it was like May 18th or something like that. I was like 212 pounds. The next day, I went down to 208. Yay! If I'm the average person, I'm celebrating. I'm having a great time. But I knew what was coming. The next day, I was up to 213. Gotcha. So in one day, I dropped 3, and then I gained 4, and then the next day I was down to 206.
Holy crap!
So most people would see the drop and get super excited, but the moment it goes back up, they would hit the panic button. They would never see that next drop.
Mm-hmm.
All they had to do was be more patient.
And trust the process and know what you're doing.
Yeah,
because like
and that's why I
clearly
talk about
have not.
And that's why I talk why tracking is so important, because if you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you did well yesterday, you know logically it's not body fat, just weight.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that's all the time I have. Nikki, you and I are going to hop on a call in a second. We're going to go over. And yeah, so awesome. So with that being said, thank you so much for hanging around. Thank you for asking the questions. Thanks for, again, giving me almost 2 hours of your time. Man, okay. So, you know, I talk about time management. Apparently, I need to work on that. So, like,
I feel like this is a good use of time. I mean, for me personally, this was really good. So
cool.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for sticking around. And have yourself a wonderful night. And Nikki, I'll send you an invitation in a second.
Yeah, that's what's going to be my question. Okay,
cool.
Thanks.
No problem.
Thanks, Chris.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.